was 6 months old, my parents split up. My mom took me to Arizona to live with her family, and we lived there for about 5 years. Was never close with my dad, didn't see him very often. After about 4 years of my parents being divorced, they reconnected, and they moved back here to Dallas, and they got remarried. In 7th grade is when the financial problems started to take a toll, and I would come home from school and there would be notices on the door saying that our electricity was going to be turned off or our water was going to be turned off. Sophomore year of high school, things kind of hit their breaking point. Emotionally, physically, my parents weren't making it anymore. My mom said that she was going to move myself and my brother and sister out to an apartment, and so they split up for the second time. Right when we moved to an apartment, my mom had to go back to work full time. She essentially became a single parent, had to make all the decisions, had to take care of everything. Also around the same time that we moved out, I met Matt and we started dating, and so he's really seen everything from the beginning. When I entered college, my mom actually filed divorce papers against my dad for the second time, and I was asked to testify in court against my dad. And right around this time is when Matt asked me to marry him. After Matt and I got engaged, we started meeting with a pastor, and in our first meeting, after just meeting him, he was able to point out that I had some issues with my father. He looked at me and was really straightforward and said, if you want my blessing in order to get married, you're gonna have to repair that relationship. Otherwise, it's gonna end up destroying your own marriage. I thought, fine, no big deal. I'm only gonna do this because I wanna get married. I don't actually want to have a relationship with my dad. I'm just gonna make it look like everything is fine so that someone will tell us that we can get married. And to go from a lawyer asking me to testify against him and a pastor asking me to repair a relationship, I wasn't really sure how that was gonna turn out. It was a hopeless situation. I didn't want them to get back together. It was awful when they were. There was no hope for my parents.
I got to the point when everything was falling apart. God just spoke to me and said, am I enough? And is my grace really sufficient? And he was.
It was pretty short where God started to work on both of their hearts, and it was no longer an issue of getting married, but she really wanted to make better that relationship and mend that relationship.
And I think while I had been away at college, the Lord had been kind of doing something in my dad and changing him, and had been doing something in my own heart that I really wasn't even aware of.
There was a time when we slowly started to invite him back into our house. Not only was that awkward, but it seemed pointless and it seemed meaningless, but I didn't know how to react with both of them in the room at the same time.
When they were working on it, when we were all together, I could see a glimmer of hope.
Once Kim and Richard started to get back together and decided they wanted to mend the relationship, what happened first was they were both broken by the Lord, and they decided and knew that it was not about them, but it was about their relationship with Christ, and it was all about Christ. When they decided to mend the relationship, it was Christ first, and then as they surrendered and submitted to Christ, they began to surrender and submit to each other.
God stepped in and turned things around and restored our marriage and the restoration of what he brought us to. It didn't take years to tear down the walls. It was
immediate.
It was a miracle. In just 9 months, the Lord completely restored our relationship. Now, I would describe my dad as loving, kind. He's a wonderful father. He's a wonderful husband to my mom. He's worthy of respect. He's a provider. He encourages us, and he loves us. It's that everyday surrendering to Christ that makes it work.
So I want to model myself after the latter half of their marriage, and just loving each other no matter what.
I would definitely want to marry someone like my dad. It's definitely a redemptive story.
God can take dead things and make them new. And sometimes you have to die as a person, as a marriage, as a couple, and then God resurrects it.
My family's been brought from a complete place of brokenness to a place of healing. It's all because of what Christ did in us and through us. Because Christ has risen, he has taken something that's dead and brought it back to life.
Come awake, come and rise. Let no one caught in sin remain inside the lie of inward shame. We fix our eyes upon the cross and run to Him who showed great love and bled for us. Freely you bled for us. Sing with us now. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Him again. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Beneath the weight of all our sin, you bow to none but heaven's will. No scheme of hell, no scoffer's crown, no burden great can hold you down. In strength you reign forever. Let your church proclaim. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come and rise up from